Do not negotiate over the phone. You want to do this first. Hi friends, welcome to Moms and Money, where we talk about managing money, making money, and saving money for the women in the household. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the very first thing you need to do if you have an account in collections. But first, if this is your first time watching me, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Gia. I would love for you to join my YouTube family over here on Moms and Money by subscribing, liking this video. It really helps my channel out. And also sharing with any family and friends. If you think this video will be helpful in any way, I would love to grow this community here, and your support of this channel means so much to me. Now, in my previous video that I uploaded last week, which by the way, if you haven't seen, you can tap this eye right here. We talked about how to raise your credit score, because as you know, on my channel, we've been focusing on first-time home buyers, how to buy a house, and all of that, your credit score and all of that, budgeting. In that previous video, I had mentioned about accounts and collections, and so many of you said in the comments that you wanted me to do a video about it. Now, I'm gonna do a couple of videos about this because it's a lot of information to unfold and unpack, and I wanna make sure I communicate it clearly so that you have actionable steps so that you know what to do if you or a family member or a loved one is in this situation. But first, I want you to forgive yourself, okay? There's nothing to be ashamed about when it comes to having accounts and collections. I know I have had accounts and collections before. Many people have, and many people don't know what to do. A lot of these companies use scare tactics to almost bully you into doing something that's not in your best interest, and for also overpaying a lot of things. So in these videos, like I said, I'm gonna be unpacking and educating you on certain things. So hopefully it will help you if you are in this situation. But you've got to deal with the emotional side of this. I mean, I feel like a lot of people get shameful, and the shame and the guilt is what leads you to ignore those phone calls, to ignore those letters. And honestly, it's like a snowball and it turns into an avalanche, okay? If you can get it under control in the beginning, the impact is not as bad as if you continue to let it go and it grows and grows to become bigger and bigger. So I just wanted to say that and put that out there to just, remain positive, to know that if you do have an account in collections, it's not the end of the world. You can overcome it. You will eventually have a good credit score and you will get past this, okay? Before we dive in about the very first thing you need to do, I want to kind of talk about the differences between an account that's charged off and an account that's in collections, because those are two different things. So basically, an account that is charged off is when you have an account with, let's say, for instance, a credit card, and they have been contacting you and you haven't made any minimum payments. Usually it's within 180 days. So if you didn't make any minimum payment within 180 days and they've been in contact with you and they can't get in contact with you and they haven't heard anything from you and you haven't worked out some sort of plan, the account typically gets charged off. So what that means is the bank or the lender basically just gave up any hope about you paying the bill or paying your balance back. And so they charge that off as a loss, okay? Now, there are many benefits to the company doing this. I mean, there are lots of tax benefits and really accounting benefits for them doing this. So they basically, write it off as, we're not going to get any money from this person anymore. Once an account is charged off, typically the company will then either send it to a collections department within the same company, or a third-party collection agency will buy that debt from them. And then that's when you get, they pursue you, the third-party collection agency, to pay them back, because now they own the debt and they usually bought it for a very cheap amount. Usually, pennies on the dollar, maybe 20 cents to the dollar or something like that. So that's typically how it works. So you can have an account that's charged off and you can have an account that's in collections. Now, they both are derogatory items on your credit report. If you see that on your credit report, it's definitely going to negatively impact your credit score. And so it's not really the balance that negatively affects your credit score, because you can have an account that's, $500 in collections, or you can have $15,000 in collections. Are both going to negatively affect your credit score tremendously. And so it's not really the dollar amount, it's the actual incident. So, and the timing of it. So if you have something that's been in collections for maybe 2 or 3 years, it's not going to negatively impact you as something that's charged off maybe 30 days ago. That's when the negative hit is impacted the most, right when it happens. Now, for people who had a relatively good credit score, and then something like this happens, it depends on how good your credit score was before it happens, to determine how bad your credit score will fall after it happens. So the better your credit score was before anything gets put in collections and before anything gets charged off, the farther you'll fall when it does get charged off or it does get put into collections. I hope that makes sense. So that's how people's credit scores can drop drastically, within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, because of these accounts that get charged off and put in collections, especially if it's something like for a couple of $100s. If you can just, find somewhere in your budget to find that couple of $100s to pay it off, you can pay it off. But I'm going to do a separate video about how and when to pay off collections separately, because that's a whole other topic that needs its own video to talk about, because I don't want this video to be like an hour long. Now, you will never hear me say never pay anything in collections. I mean, I know that's a very popular topic and title here on YouTube, but you're not going to hear that from me, because I care about your credit score and I want you to care about your credit score as well. Now, there are some instances where you never need to pay if you're close to your statute of limitations or something like that, and you have time, like a year or so before it gets dropped off, then I can understand that. But you're not going to hear me say just never ever pay anything in collections, because I want you to care about your credit score and I want you to have a positive credit score, because it can open up so many doors for you, even if you do live a consumer debt-free life like myself. So that is the difference between charge-offs and collections, okay? And when you get hit with a double whammy, which means your account gets charged off and then it gets reported to the credit bureau at the time of charge-off, and then a third-party collection agency will buy the debt, and then that gets reported to the credit bureau, where you have both, for the same one credit card, you'll have 2 lines on your credit report about it, and it negatively affects you. And that's legally, perfectly legal for them to do, as long as the balance is only on the collections part. So the charge-off part will be written, but there will be no balance there. But the collections one, where they're actively pursuing you, the balance will be there. Now, you can't have the balance on there twice, because it's not like it was 2 credit cards. It's just 1 credit card. So the balance should be on 1 account. Now, I will say this a million times. You're going to hear me say this every single time I talk about credit. Please pool your credit. Pool your own credit. You can in my state, in Georgia, you can pull your credit twice a year for free. Really look up, there are many different ways you can pay your own credit, pull your own credit for free through the 3 different credit bureaus, so that you can see what's on there and understand what's on there. And if you guys want me to film a video about how to read your credit report effectively, leave a comment down below and let me know, and I will make that video. Okay, so pull your credit, okay? First thing you need to do is to educate yourself. Educate yourself on your rights, and educate yourself about your account balance and what it is, okay? Now, when I say know your rights, okay, you have to know what your statute of limitations are. Now, what the statute of limitations is, it's the time period during which a creditor or collector can sue the borrower for the amount owed. Now, notice I said sue, not contact, because they can contact you and try to harass you for the rest of your life to try to collect on this debt. Now, they can't sue you. They can only sue you within the statute of limitations. It's a time frame. Here in Georgia, there's a 6-year statute of limitations. So that means if I had an account that was in collections, after 6 years, that's gonna fall off of my credit report. So you gotta understand what your statute of limitations is for your state. It's different. I'll leave links in the description box for a website where you can figure it out. But usually it's anywhere between 4 and 6 years, or even 7 years. I know in California, it's 4 years. Here in Georgia, it's 6 years. But look up to see what it is on your account. The date that they start calculating the time is the date of your last payment. Okay, so let's say, for instance, the last minimum payment you made was 180 days ago. That means your account is delinquent 180 days, and the date that they start counting for the statute of limitations is from the date when you last made your last payment. Okay, so that's important to know, because if you had something, it's been a year okay, and it's in collections, so that means a whole year has passed since you paid your last bill or the minimum payment. That means you're a year into your statute of limitations. So keep that in mind, because if you agree to some sort of payment plan and start paying it again, the statute of limitations start all over from that time that you start paying it again. So that's why it's important to educate yourself first before you agree to anything, before you talk to them on the phone or anything. Educate yourself, okay? We're gonna take this in baby steps. Also, there is something called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, okay? So what this does is it protects you and limits creditors on how they call, contact you, quote unquote, harass or bully you when they're trying to collect their payment. So here are the things that they cannot do. They can't contact you before 8 a.m. or 9 p.m. Now, this is a federal law. They cannot contact you at unusual times or places that they know are inconvenient for you, such as your workplace. They can't harass you by phone, email, text, or any other means. They can't continue contacting you after you've let them know you're represented by an attorney, and they can't file or threaten to file a lawsuit after the statute of limitations has expired. Again, this is a federal law. They cannot keep harassing you. They can only call you a certain number of times and all of that. So definitely look into that if you are experiencing anything, because it is against the law. And guess what, guys? Some of these people, they break the law. Okay, they will lie and get you to say whatever they want to say, whatever they want you to get to say on the phone. They will manipulate you, especially if you don't know your rights. So know your rights so that you know how to handle it when it comes. The second thing that you need to do, okay, and this is really important, is you've got to validate your debt. Now, what does that mean? You need to make sure that they have accurate information and that the debt is yours. I know it sounds crazy, but to be honest with you guys, you don't want to pay a debt that's outside of the statute of limitations, because they won't tell you that, okay? And you don't want to pay a debt that's not legally yours, okay? Because a lot of these collection agencies, they buy large amounts of debts for pennies on the dollar, okay? And they're going to do whatever they can to have anybody pay that debt back, okay? So what does that mean to validate your debt? Now, they're gonna call you. They're gonna send you letters. They're gonna try to contact you. First of all, do not communicate with them over the phone, okay? Do not communicate. One more time for the people in the back. Do not communicate with them over the phone. You want everything in writing. You wanna validate your debt in writing. What does that mean to validate your debt? When they call you, you say, "Thank you for bringing it to my attention, but I do not want to discuss this over the phone. Please send me a letter validating my debt, proving that the debt is mine, giving me payment history. I want to see a contract, where the debt is from, what the debt was. I want all the payment history. I want everything there is to do with this debt. If you cannot prove that to me, then you must cease all collection efforts." Okay, you literally have to say that over the phone. I want to see it in writing. Please send me all information in writing. I want payment history. I want whose name the account was in, where the account was from, the balance on the account, the payment history. I want all of that information. That's it. Do not discuss anything else. Do not claim ownership over this debt over the phone. Do not do any of that, because they're recording every single thing you say over the phone. Request the information in writing. Request enough information to prove that the debt is yours, okay? Because again, they're buying this debt for pennies on the dollar. So let's say, for instance, you had an AT&T bill that went to collections for like $500, okay? And so they bought that debt for maybe $100, okay? And so they're gonna contact you and say, you need to pay this, I don't know, like $700, because that's what the balance is. You need to pay this $700, because see, that's how they make their money, by making you pay more than what the actual balance was, or pay the full amount of the actual balance. But again, I'm going to do a separate video about paying the debt, but you want to make sure that the information that they're sending you is your debt. Once you can validate that debt and know that it's yours, in the next video, I'm gonna explain how to pay your debt off and when to pay your debt off, and to, share with you how to do that. It's also important to look at their statute of limitations. Look at that date. You don't wanna pay anything that's outside of the statute of limitations, because that's not on your credit reports. That's why it's important to educate yourself, pull your credit reports, and know what you're dealing with. You want everything in writing, from the account from the time that you opened the account to the time that it was charged off. You want all of that information. If that collection agency cannot give you that information, they need to cease contacting you and cease collecting on that debt from you, because obviously it's not your debt. So like I said, in the next video, we'll talk about how to pay your debt and when to pay it. And leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Let's discuss it. Again, I've had stuff in collections before in my early 20s, girl. I was just financially wild. Okay, so it happens. Forgive yourself. That doesn't mean you're never going to have a great credit score. You will have a great credit score. You just have to make sure you're making better decisions and you're not making the situation even worse. You just have to work your way through it. Also, I just rebranded my new Facebook page. Go check it out. Go follow me. I upload my videos there as well. So if you're on Facebook, come say hello, and also on Instagram if you're on there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, you can tap my picture on the screen, and you can also check out my previous video right next to it, and all of my social media platforms, all this down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.